Hello, this is a quick video on how to use the Roland S-1 as a drum machine. So we're going to be looking at a couple ways to make drum sounds with this device, and then look at some options for how to sequence those sounds, and then maybe jump into some methods for adding variety to those sequences and see where else that takes us. So if you're interested, stick around. Let's see what we can do. So the first method we're going to take a look at is using the LFO to affect the pitch, and then we'll kind of use the ADSR in the filter section to shape the sound. So we're just starting with an initialized patch here. I'm going to drop this down a couple octaves just so we have a lower note to start with, and we're going to kind of try to build a kick drum. So I'm going to turn this saw all the way up, and then the next thing we're going to want to do is go to settings, or the menu, and find the LFO settings, and we're going to change it to sync. And what that's going to allow us to do is actually change the rate of the LFO to match up with our global BPM. So let's just put that on eighth notes, and then if we set this LFO waveform to the saw down, I believe is what it's called, and then turn the LFO all the way up, you see you can kind of get that pitch down effect. So let's add in a couple notes into our sequencer just so we can play around with shaping them. So I'm going to reduce the size of this sequence pattern down to just 4 steps, so we're dealing with less notes. So let's just add these in. So on step 1, let's put a G. So let's use F. Step 3, we'll put an F. So now we have this. You can see without the LFO, with the LFO, you get that snappy pitch down, quick pitch down effect, which is what we're going for. So let's just turn the BPM up to make it a little more interesting. And then really from here, we're just adjusting the envelope, or the filter envelope, but also I guess the ADSR. So let's just make sure this is kind of where we want it. Let's turn the filter up a bit, and then we can just play with the cutoff. And there you go. You kind of already have like a stompy kick sound there, almost like a 808, I guess. Disclaimer, I'm not a sound design engineer, so this is just, tricks and tips I've picked up along the way. So things that have worked for me, take that for what you will. Okay, so that's option 1, using the LFO. Let's look at some other options. So let's reinitialize this patch. And this time, let's use the noise oscillator. So first, let's change that from pink to white. So if you just hold shift and twist this knob, you can get that to go to white noise. And then let's turn the oscillators, the other oscillators, all the way down. We're not using those for now. And you should be left with something like this. So let's just program in a couple more notes. And again, let's change the pattern, just make it shorter. And now for this method, we're just going to mess with the ADSR and the filter section, specifically the filter resonance. So let's kind of get a good starting point. And then as we start adjusting these filter and envelope, you can see you start getting that nice kick sound. And again, you can kind of play around with this until you get the actual exact sound you're looking for, but that gives you a kind of a reference for a starting point. So Another thing you can do is within these steps, you can adjust each step individually to an extent, so you can kind of get variation within your drum pattern. So right now we just kind of have a kick, but maybe you want it to be kick, hi-hat, snare, whatever. You can do that. So first of all, you've got just kind of your kick, but if you hold down a specific step, you can edit that individual step. So there you've kind of got like a hi-hat sound. Now it's going to affect every subsequent step, so then you have to go and change the step after it back to what you want that to be. So and there you go. You kind of got a little drum beat going. So obviously you can get a lot more complex with it than that, but it's kind of a nice starting point. All right, so we're going to initialize that patch and then just look at one final method. So it's basically the same as the last, but we're just going to actually use the just the normal oscillators instead of the noise oscillator, and then we're going to try to mix in some actual like bass notes, so you could start to create more of like a drum and bass pattern, and then get a little more complex with your sequences. So again, let's just toss in some notes here. So it doesn't matter a whole lot what they are. First, I guess let's just reduce the length of our sequence. And then let's go ahead and put in a couple notes. So all right. We're just trying to kind of get a short, snappy tone. And we're going to use this filter and resonance. To get that kick sound. And then if you hold down this step, similar to how we were making kind of a hat before, you can adjust this second step to be more of a bass note. So let's turn the resonance down. Again, you might have to adjust the other note back. And there you go. So you've kind of got like a kick and a bass going now. Sounds kind of silly, but it gives you an idea of where you can go, with these different tools. So one last thing you can do, since we're no longer using the noise knob in our sequence, is use that to create some other rhythmic patterns. So if you go to the menu, let's see, if you go to the menu and then noise, let's see. Might be this one, noise, nope. So it's this option right here. I don't know what it stands for. Turn it on. You can see then it's basically changed it to a riser. But you can use that as like a hi-hat. So it's kind of a little loud as is, so if you go to level, you can turn that down. And there, you've got another little drum element that you can play with, add into performances, so pretty cool. There's a couple other options in there with that riser too. You can kind of get some more syncopated beats and stuff if you really fidget around with it. But all right, I think that's going to do it. Hopefully it was helpful. Maybe you picked up a tip or two here and there. If you liked that, check out my channel, subscribe. That would be great. But I've got other S1 content on there. So, little performance videos, some covers, a playlist with S1 content. So feel free to check that out. And until then, we will see you in the next video. Bye.